What's up, everyone? Welcome to our first Metaverse panel in partnership with DigiCorp Labs and special guests, Metainfluence and Netvrk. So we're just going to have a very exciting, interactive, insightful conversation about brands and consumers meet in the metaverse. So I'm your host, Jojo. Hello. And we have our co-host, Why Not? So Why Not, if you want to do a quick introduction about yourself?
Sure. I was made in Holland a long time ago. I've been working in the internet industry for the last 2.5, 3 decades. Very excited about what's happening here and how we are now taking 2D to 3D. Looking forward to the conversation and, well, looking forward to the questions.
Yes, thank you so much for that. But before we start, I do want to let our audience know that we will be opening up our questions up in the floor towards the end. Or you know what, since we did speak, if you have any questions that's like related, yeah, feel free to go ahead and raise your hand. And all you got to do is just click the raise hand button, and it's just going to signal us that you have a question. And yeah, and then we'll just bring you in. But let's introduce our guests, and we're just going to jump right into this. So for each one of the panels, Dan, if you want to start with the intro of like who you are and who you represent.
Yeah, sure. I'm the CEO of Netvrk. My background is in a myriad of startups as well as traditional real estate. Yeah, so at Netvrk, we're basically focused on bringing the metaverse into Unreal Engine and multiple blockchains.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan. And then we have Alvin. So hi, if you want to do a quick intro.
Hey, Jojo, and hey, everyone. Glad to be here. Yeah, my background is actually in business development and influencer marketing. Been in crypto for more than 5 years now. Regarding Metafluence, actually it's Metafluence. Sometimes people confuse it with Metainfluence. So Metafluence is all about building an influencer-centric environment in the metaverse where influencers, their audiences, and brands can come together in an incentivized and transparent manner. And I will explain all of that in just a bit. So this is, I think, this is for the quick intro.
That's awesome. That's awesome, guys. In name of MoonBoots, representing the partners over here, we're proud and very excited to have the metaverses masters here, the professionals and the people that are really creating, making the change, right, in ecosystem, bringing metaverses to the masses and try to bring the best experience, the best out of it, blockchain, metaverses to our audience. And I'm very proud to have you all here. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for the intro, guys. So let's start off. I want to ask the first question. How would you guys define metaverse? So how would you describe to your aunts, to your friends, to your coworkers? What's the best way to explain to someone, like, what is the metaverse? So anyone can kind of start with this one.
Yeah, I think, yeah, maybe I can start. So this is a great question, right? Because it's a buzzword right now. Everyone is talking about metaverse. But from my experience, it looks like a lot of people may get it wrong. You know, this is something that is quite debatable, honestly. And I believe it was Elon Musk who recently tweeted saying that everyone can say anything about metaverse and they can be right, because this is something that we are still imagining how this world is going to look like, right? To me, there are 3 aspects, I would say, that involve metaverse. Those are, I would say not 3, but 3 core aspects. Those are ownership, because you have to own your digital assets or digital assets that are linked to your physical assets, because at the end of the day, metaverse is about metaverse is a combination of physical and digital realities, right? So there comes the first thing, ownership. That is right now it's a lot more salient and clear that NFTs does represent quite a nice tool to combat the problem that we had with the ownership, right? And then I would say it's more about the decentralization. For example, Facebook is talking about building metaverse, but is it going to be decentralized? Probably not. Is the ownership truly going to be backed? Probably not. So it's probably not going to be, let's say, a true metaverse that we want it to be, right? In their case. And then I would say it has to be interoperable, meaning that if you have your own digital assets, it could be your avatar, it could be your NFTs, anything, you should be able to transfer it to different worlds, because the metaverse we are talking about is a combination of virtual realities, and it could be us building our own Metafluence world, it could be Netvrk building their own, it could be DigiCorp with their own. At the end of the day, if I have my own digital asset in my own ecosystem, I should be able to use it in Netvrk, you should be able to use it in DigiCorp Labs, in anywhere else. That's where the interoperability part comes in. And then also, next thing I would say, I just want to cut it short. Probably I'm talking too much.
Oh, you're good.
Okay. Also, the next thing is, this is a bit of a debatable topic, because there are some people saying that, okay, I mean, metaverse doesn't have to be 3D, it could be 2D as well, because again, it's basically the combination of digital and the physical world. This is a debatable topic, but in my opinion, the 3D element adds a lot more to it, because it gives the feeling of presence. You're really there. You're actually having a lot richer experience, because you feel like you're there. It's a lot better than 2D, and 2D is limited. It's very limited, right? So and then I think we are already are kind of living in the metaverse, but this sort of metaverse that we're living in, like online games, etc., it's basically the early stages of the metaverse, and then hopefully in years we will have, let's say, a true metaverse that we can call.
Right. No, I completely agree. I feel like the metaverse is better described, or visually, when you think of metaverse, it is 3D. But thank you so much for the input. And then I'm also just going to open up lightly instead of kind of choosing point. So whoever wants to also open up with this conversation.
I think I'd like to add, and again, this is me speaking after being in the internet and developing where we are right now for more than 2 decades. And again, what we experience today is very centralized. And thank you, Alvin, for making that clear. I mean, I think what was not planned, but what did happen over the years is that, and again, showing my age here, but I started using the internet as a scientist years and years and years ago. And it was almost point to point, person to person, sharing information about research and having that availability online and getting scientists to understand from different parts of the world what they were doing. And right now, there's always a third party involved. It always goes through, and you said Meta, right? Let's go to the metaverse forward. And there's this third party that currently rules what we experience. And I think that, for me, is the huge opportunity that we can take that back, that we can take individuals to start to create, and again, physical and digital, and emerging, ownership, creativity. I mean, all of those things today should be taken back to the individual, and that is, for me, what the metaverse is all about. It's about creating many different experiences by many different groups, by many different people, by many different communities, and let them all share. And again, there might be commerce involved, there might be a lot of things involved, which I'm sure we'll get into. But this is an exciting time where that internet or that digital experience that was given to us as a gift, I think is the biggest gift in human mankind that was given to us to share, to be able to learn, to be able to long distance communicate. But it has sort of been sidetracked into a world where, again, there's big monopolies and there's big people out there that benefit from that more than others. And I'm very excited to be speaking to all of you about how we can create, back to the individual, back to groups, back to companies, about that and make that a more shared experience. And again, that's my 2-second contribution to it.
I actually wanted
I
to
think I
follow up on
definitely.
that. Oh, sorry, Dan.
No problem. Yeah, I definitely agree with the previous two speakers. The metaverse, it could be either decentralized or centralized, right? On one hand, you do have Meta, which obviously would be centralized, but then you have all these other metaverses which are, blockchain based, and the aim really is to be decentralized. So, I think blockchain gives people the ability to have a metaverse where they can have ownership of assets, right? And this, what does this look like? So I think for the independent projects, the decentralized projects, you're talking about NFTs, and those NFTs can govern anything, right? They can govern just virtual objects. They can govern physical objects that are tied to, virtual twins, digital twins. And, once you have blockchain in the equation, it goes up, the conversation so much more. You're talking about DAOs for governance, right? Decentralized organizations to run the metaverse. You have dApps, so you can have different platforms, apps, services inside the metaverse. And then you have this whole thing with DeFi, right? The whole movement of having decentralized finance. So no longer having to be tied to traditional banks, which in most cases offer, very low interest rates. You now have an open world where you're really able to take advantage of the universal system, right? So if it's just a great way of linking up different people, different projects, and different companies using this metaverse infrastructure, right? And so I think we're going to have a lot of different metaverses, and eventually the technology is going to catch up to where all these different metaverses can communicate with one another. I don't think we're there yet. I think everybody sees that on the horizon. But yeah, technology has to catch up a little bit until we're seeing all these interoperable metaverses communicating with one another and the ability to hop in from one metaverse to another. And, that's part of what makes it exciting is, we're extremely, extremely early to this, and we're just getting started basically. So really, really cool space to be in right now.
I completely agree. And then I don't know, Petrix, if you wanted to jump in or if you want me to move on to the next question.
I mean, I'm here learning.
Well, you are on
So,
stage with me too, so I feel bad leaving you out because I know you have a lot of input in
no,
this.
yes, I have some inputs, but I like to hear, learn a little bit more, and then don't break the flow. But yeah, I'm enjoying this a lot so far. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so let's kind of move on to how do you think people are going to use the metaverse? And you're right, Dan. I mean, it's just so new. We still don't know what it can become. So let's really paint the picture. And then what type of experience do you think we will gain from this traction? So and again, this can open up to anyone. Maybe
Yeah.
Dan, if you want to start.
Yeah. So, I think the most interesting part of it is if we have the same conversation in a year from now, it's going to be such a different conversation. So it's kind of like the early days of the internet, right? It's just a brand new thing. Everybody kind of has an idea in their mind what it is, what the metaverse is. But I think, what everybody has in common is they want to use the metaverse to better their life, to make it easier, to have utility. So I think the metaverses that can fulfill that with the features that people want and create an experience that is really, pleasant and add something to their life, just like the internet, right? The internet caught on because it really made day-to-day things so much more intuitive, so much more simple, and so much, richer. It's a much richer experience to use the internet than to do other things. So, the metaverse, I feel, is kind of like it's this virtual space where it goes beyond the internet, and then that ties into Web 3.0. So you have so many different things that the metaverse will be capable of taking advantage of, and it'll become a very, in my opinion, used tool by everyone. It's basically the missing link, I believe, in making Web 3.0 fully functional. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great tool for people to use.
Yeah, I would like to also add a couple comments, and I definitely agree with Dan. And I think it's more of the probably generational question. What I mean by that is right now, I mean, kids spend so much time playing online games, which are sort of, can be considered early versions of metaverse. They do offer a lot of experience, but they lack the aspects such as, again, interoperability or decentralization, ownership, this sort of stuff. But they do offer immense 3D experience, right? And kids right now, I mean, more of I would say, not just kids, but millennials, Generation Z, they spend a lot of time playing these games. And these games are also kind of based on things like you earn different sort of tokens within the game, and you can then buy clothes, and you can use these clothes and avatars within this game. And these games were popular way before NFTs came into place, right? So I think with time, and I mean it's going to be exponential, right? So the transition and the technology itself, the way it develops, it's a lot faster than it used to be, right? Because it's again about the exponential growth, and the new generations, they are already used to it, and it's way easier and simpler for them to adapt and transition into it. And you see also a giant wealth transition, I should say, because again, when older people get old, new generations, they get wealth, they get the ownership, and they get to decide the future, right? The future of businesses, future of governments, and that's why we're seeing a lot of transitioning here happening. Yeah, I think with the new generations, it's going to be. I think it's going to be just a normal process. I don't think it's going to be like a rapid change that a lot of people expecting, right? Our metaverse is here, and it's just going to be much different in just millisecond or stuff like that. I think it's just going to be a natural transformation, which is already happening, and it's just going to take some time for people to adapt. And then once mass adoption is sort of there, and everyone is using this 3D world immersive experience backed with blockchain and ownership, it's just going to feel natural for everyone.
And Alvin, yes, and both Dan, and I do agree. And what I see happening is that we sort of took what we knew, and again, speaking about old things, right? The internet today, Amazon, again, just to name a name, is a new way of having a catalog. The catalogs that used to, for the people that do know, arrive in the post, right? You got a catalog, you could go through it, you browsed, you found what you wanted, you ordered it, and back in the day, 2 weeks later, now next day it arrives. That's what the internet is today. But the real world experience that we all have in commerce and in working and in interacting and in doing a lot of things is very different than browsing a catalog. It's interacting with individuals. It's going into a space and experiencing a product, seeing sneakers, seeing fashion, seeing whatever. And that, for me, has never been there and is not yet in what the commercial model on e-commerce is. Everything that we see is a almost one-to-one copy what we are used to in the physical world in terms of folders and booklets and flyers. I think we're ready, and this is what the metaverse will do. I think we're ready for this immersive, and again, I don't necessarily say that it needs to be 3D, but it's immersive more than what it is right now. And having that experience that we have in everyday life as well. And again, COVID being COVID over the last 2 years, but it's sort of fast-tracked everything that we do digitally to a level right now where it's sort of the norm, if and when things are still bad, to have e-education, right? Who would have thought 3 years ago that we would have e-education for our youngsters in this amount of speed and time? Nobody. So it fast-forwarded very, very, very quickly. And I think now with this metaverse happening, hopefully everywhere and not necessarily in only a centralized version, we will be able to see what we have in everyday life and how people interact with us also in this digital way. And I love the fact that it's now becoming more normal, becoming more towards what we do every day than what the internet experience was in the last 2 decades. So one question for both of you out there is how do you see, because again, we need to commercialize it, and it needs to be commercialized, and it needs to be commercialized in a certain way. So how do you see, both Dan and Elvin, seeing the commercialization of this metaverse experience happening for, let's say, large brands or enterprises that are large, or maybe even niche businesses that are being developed and startups that get a chance to start in the metaverse and not necessarily on an e-commerce site?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see brands and companies basically adopting the metaverse into their overall plans, just like with the early internet days. So you have the early adopters, you have the companies that are very, forward thinking, very quick to action. So they're the ones we see entering the metaverse right away. But I think you brought up a really good point about, a lot of people think about it as, you have the digital twin, right? So basically a copy of what you have in the physical world in the metaverse. So I think companies are very wise to control that image in the metaverse. So bringing their brands, bringing their products into the metaverse, is definitely a priority for the forward-thinking companies. And eventually it'll be just like with the internet. So almost every company now has a website, has email, all that stuff. I think it's going to be the same with the metaverse. And I think it's actually going to be a faster adoption than it was with the internet. So, it's just owning the brand. And I think the metaverse is a great tool for these companies to, we're not just talking about big mega corporations. This is also for entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurs can really, especially in this early stage, leverage the metaverse to sell their products, and really, get their brand out there, get their brand noticed by, not only the blockchain community, but by everyone who has access to the internet, basically. So, just like with the internet, the metaverse is a great tool, and the companies that, utilize it correctly can really add value to their brand, to their products, and just tap into this, giant, I guess I can call it a metaverse consciousness. Yeah.
Nice. And Elvin, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Dan, I definitely agree with Dan, and he actually said a lot of things that I wanted to say, right? We're aligned in that regard there. I would like to also add that right now, a lot of brands, they are seeing it as a PR opportunity as well, right? They are seeing that there's a huge opportunity here. And also, one thing comes from the innovative perspective of it, because they want to, kind of adopt a new technology and go with the trends and everything. On the other side, they understand that there is a huge crypto community out there that they can actually attract, right? And they succeeded so far, Adidas or Nike or Balenciaga, etc. They attracted a lot of loyal consumers who weren't actually into these brands. Maybe they were, or maybe they weren't, but definitely there were a lot of consumers that they weren't interested in this stuff. But once they saw that these companies are embracing them, they started embracing these companies as well. So there's a huge opportunity there. And on the other side, this also leads to mass adoption on the large customer bases of these companies. When we're talking about, again, these big giant companies, once they create these NFTs, they do attract the crypto consumers, but they also educate their own loyal consumers too. So it kind of leads to this mass adoption. And at the end of the day, everything is like a kind of working on the basis of kind of capitalism, demand and supply, right? So you have the demand from the masses that we need to embrace crypto, we need to embrace the metaverse, we need to embrace NFTs and all this. And once these companies do, and then you have basically supply and demand, which leads to mass adoption. So yeah.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And I think we've got a great future ahead of us. And for me, looking at what we do today is already an example, and it's still a very 2D experience in terms of talking and having that. But again, I want to go back to Jojo and have her back in. So, interaction, companies and employees, and this metaverse presents like tremendous opportunities to have a very different experience online than what we have right now, right? Because again, we will have avatars, we will be able to speak to each other, and there are brands out there that currently do that in terms of video conferencing. But Jojo, maybe you can take it forward on that and discover a little bit of what potentially is in the metaverse for that.
Sure. As you guys were speaking, it just really reminded me like the simpler days when online or the internet just came out. And I remember as a kid just searching simple things, right? Simple images of food, dates. And I'm like starting to think on having these new memories, but now with Web 3.0. So as I was thinking that, and then I was thinking with Alvin and his company, because you kind of hit it on the spot with metaverse and influencers. So I kind of actually really wanted to steer the conversation on why you chose this type of aspect of a business for the influencers and the metaverse. So I think it's really fascinating because people keep saying that this is the year for influencers as well. So I just wanted to get more on your take on that personally and your project.
Sure, absolutely. So I think influencers are the sort of pioneers of the decentralized web, right? Because in the past, if you wanted to do a sort of advertisement, it was kind of hard for you if you weren't a sort of established business. You had to go through, agencies or use paid ads, which just came around maybe 10 years ago through, Google or Facebook. And before that, it was even harder because you had to go to legacy media and to TV, etc. But right now, anyone can reach out to certain influencers. It could be micro influencers, macro influencers, depending on your budget, and then basically get some sort of advertisement and get your business running without the constraints. And also influencer. So this is kind of the part about the influencer marketing, which involves three parties. You have influencers, you have their audiences, and you have brands, and it's basically about this triangle, right? Just to continue on the side of accessibility for a lot of brands through influencers, and influencers being again the pioneers of the decentralized web. Right now, influencers are driving the opinion or online opinion, right? So that's what they are called, most of the time, key opinion leaders. And once you basically solve this issue of issues in the influencer marketing, such as, again, when it comes to smaller influencers, they struggle to monetize their influence. They have some followers, maybe they have 10k, 50k or something like that, and it's hard for them to get sponsorship deals. And on the brand side, you have challenges like they want to work with certain influencers, but they are not sure if this campaign is going to deliver the expected results. And then from the audience side, they want more engagement with the influencers, because you have fans, especially when it comes to celebrities, who want to engage with them more often. And there are some platforms right now, such as Patreon or some others, who are actually allowing these experiences where you can actually subscribe. It's paid subscription, and you can talk to these influencers, etc. In our case, we've worked with a lot of brands. We've done thousands of influencer campaigns. We worked with a lot of influencers, and we understand what are the issues. And the issues are, again, the ones that I highlighted. And with Metafluence, what we are trying to do is to solve these issues while allowing better monetization tools for influencers. For example, our main product is our Meta Huts, which are influencer homes in the metaverse, and these homes have different monetization tools in form of rooms. So we have NFT room where an influencer can display their NFTs or sell them. In the event room, they can invite their fans and have a private event and sell tickets in form of NFTs. In the shopping room, they can collaborate with brands and also link their products there and do some sort of sponsorship deals. And also there is much more, but this is kind of the basis of it. So yeah, to answer your question, there's a lot of things going on, and influencers being in the center of it, because they are the ones who have started the entire the movement on the internet that led to I would say to more of the peer-to-peer advertisement.
No, 100%. And I actually I was really curious about that, only because, yeah, that's such a competitive field now. Almost everyone wants to have an opinion and get paid for it. And it's cool how everyone is now online and they're listening to these influencers. And then now that you have a platform within your project, it's very, very interesting. But now I kind of wanted to switch the gears and just talk about how will everyone else make money or play a role in this? Instead of focusing on the influencers for now, let's talk about everyone else who's not an influencer. So Dan, or why not, I can open this question with you guys.
Yeah, I think so. Just to touch on what Elvin was talking about, yeah, I think this whole influencer thing, it's a recent phenomenon, obviously enabled by Twitter, YouTube, and I think it's absolutely amazing that, you have so many like young kids basically even becoming influencers. And to imagine this just a few years ago, I think this has been going on for a while, but to imagine this maybe 10 years ago that a high school kid or high school dropout could basically become an influencer, right, and post funny videos or interesting videos, get millions of subscribers and basically monetize their existence. So I think that is like the prelude to what we're going to see with the metaverse, right? So you see all these influencers on YouTube, especially Twitter, that are monetizing their presence, monetizing their audience. So I think just trying to conceptualize how much more they'd be able to do in the metaverse, right? It's great to have visual content with videos or tweeted content, but imagine how much more these influencers can do in the metaverse. You're talking digital assets, you're talking basically straight engagement with their audience. You don't really have any gatekeepers, right? Like, for instance, YouTube or Twitter. So it really lends itself to a lot more than what we currently see with influencers, and really has all the tools built in, right? Blockchain, NFTs. So I think that's one of the most fascinating parts of what the metaverse is going to consist of. Influencers definitely have their place in that. Yeah, so without giving anything, too much away on, what we're doing with Netvrk, we have basically some really interesting influencers and even celebrities coming into the Netvrk metaverse. So we're talking about basically the metaversification of people's communities and their influence, I guess. So there's really a lot there with how people, whether it's a normal person that has a small community behind them, or like a mega musician, rapper, whatever, right? So there's so many ways for both sides of the spectrum to monetize their presence in the metaverse and take advantage of all these great features and tools that blockchain presents itself and lends itself to in the metaverse.
Thank you so much, Dan, for your input.
And I think that's very well said, Dan. And what I would like to add, and I might stir the soup a little bit here, because I think me as a nerd, I need to stir the soup. So I'm going to stir the soup.
We love nerds, so go for it.
Thank you. But I think the model is proven by what we know today and what this centralized version is. And again, YouTube, fantastic medium. Again, it challenged a lot of different industries, but it also created a very centralized platform to do this on. And there's ridiculous, well, sorry, my word, in my opinion, but there's a large amount of people earning a lot of money on it. But that's not necessarily what I believe this metaverse thing needs to be about. This metaverse needs to be about bringing that opportunity to everyone. And again, everyone that has, and we have lovely people around the world in many different guises and shades and everywhere that have not been able to do what most of us have been able to do with the YouTube platform. And I think the metaverse will bring more equality, and it will bring everyone the same opportunity to speak up and do what they want to do. Celebrities, fantastic, do it. People that have an opinion about a typical topic and can add information about that typical topic, they will be able to add as well, because there is now an opportunity to create alternatives to these large centralized monoliths. And I think that is what, from a nerd perspective, blockchain brings, what this whole metaverse and experience and being involved in it and being immersive in it brings, that very creative people can start to build up their own businesses, their own creations, and start having and creating experiences for other people to enjoy. And that is a beautiful thought for me, and that is what I hope this whole opening up towards a more immersive world and towards having individuals being able to express themselves will bring. I know that these large organizations will have a presence as well, and that is okay, because they've done tremendous things to show us what can be done over the last 2 decades. I'm not here, and I'm not here to diss them. Again, I use a platform to speak to many people around the world here in a digital way, which is fantastic, right? I mean, I couldn't have done that 10 years ago. Right now we can. But we also need to involve and invite the rest of the people that have not necessarily been able to do so today. And I think that's what the metaverse is all about. And again, being a nerd, I'm all about plumbing, and plumbing needs to happen for everybody to be able to do so as well. So having said that, I think we're a couple of minutes into this thing. We said we would engage and have questions brought forward. Is this
Yes.
time, Jojo, to have some questions? I don't know if they have been coming forward and have actually been presented to us. I haven't seen them. But then again, I'm very new to this platform, so I'll be totally honest.
No worries. There hasn't been any requests. And again, if you guys do have requests, I think all you got to do is hit the hand button, and either we can invite you or we could go to the Discord chat. It's called AMA Chats. So let me click there.
Yeah, so any questions, if you don't want to come on stage, just drop your question on the AMA chat. We're going to read over here and respond as much questions as you can. But
Yeah.
just giving my feedback as well, my humble feedback and opinion after hear from all those experts, it's clear that even when Alvin mentioned that he believes that the influencers kind of pioneering, right, this decentralization of the marketing, the advertising, etc. Yeah, it's a big truth. It's super real, because if you think about the TV, right? TV was the only platform that companies, brands could go out there and marketing your product or your business and things like that. Now, influencers, they can open the kind of their own TV channel, right? But they have their own niche. You don't have one influencer that represent everything. It's really rare, aka Kim Kardashian, she tries to, but you always have like some specialist that was a pro athlete, right? And they're talking about sport gears, right? So that's what you want to hear. You don't want to hear a singer talking about sport gears, right? Usually brands before used to go to the TV, buy a lot of the kind of auctioning the time between the main TV show and the TV to have the advertising over there, paying crazy amount of money plus paying crazy amount of money to the celebrity that represent the same niche, right, of their product to be on that commercial. So there was a lot of money involved, and not much feedback, not much someone with real context that really back it up what they saying about their product was just a commercial. So right now, brands just hire an influencer, right? That is specialist, that it works on that niche from that product, talks about on their own platform, and you have way more target buyers, people, audience, adopters, right? Community that will join a company or brand or whatever is your product. So in the end, what I'm trying to say that is not just that the influencers became the pioneer on that thing. They just became the pioneer on that thing because someone gave to them a platform to do, right? Someone came and created a platform. If it's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, right? So what you guys are doing, creating Metaverse, so you're creating a platform for the next big thing. Even it will be more opportunity for influencers, or a new, completely new category that will create, that will show up, that will merge next year or next 5 years inside the metaverse that I have no idea, right? But it will be only be able to exist because you guys created a platform, so something new could flourish, right? So the potential metaverse is insane. It's
It is
that's why we're
insane.
here.
I completely agree. And a lot of influencers are definitely looking towards other platforms like TikTok, or now that, everyone is dumping a lot of money into metaverses, I can, Petrix, you said like 6 years, I could see it within 6 months, maybe less. If the more rewards are a little bit sweeter for an influencer, I mean, you'll see a lot of people sprinting towards that. However, we do have a guest on here that potentially might have a question. Or who knows, he might sing us a song. I don't know. But yeah, take it away.
Hello, welcome, Savit.
I promise you don't want me to sing. My name's Daniel. The handle that you see is just my surname reversed. First of all, I want to say thanks very much. First of all, I want to say it's actually one of the most refreshing conversations I've heard about the metaverse in a lot of ways. Couple of quick points I wanted to cover, though, is one is I don't like the letter S at the end, because it's not metaverses and it's not platforms. It's meant to be an interconnection. And the Zuckerbergs of the world are trying to recreate their walled gardens in the metaverse, which is the antithesis of what Web3 is meant to be. And I really like what Vinan had to say about the the opportunities that we need to open up and create for people as we adopt more people into the crypto space and using Web3, the security, the decentralization of these things. But the problem that I want to ask, if you guys have any idea about, other than agreeing probably that it's a not ideal situation, is the bro world taking over the metaverse and the influencer world taking over the metaverse, or trying to recreate a bunch of people making a bunch of money doing videos is one thing, and we're never going to stop that. But we've got this Yuga Lab things that has just happened, which is a real aberration. It's a huge centralization. We look at the open seas and the NFT space in the world that are all very centralized as well. How and when are we going to move further and further into a real Web3? Because none of the above are that. And the bro community and the Bitcoin billionaires who finance the projects like those are taking it over for themselves, which is the exact opposite of what Vinand was hypothesizing. So I don't know that there's an answer to this yet, and I don't know that we're going to be able to fix that. It's like saying, oh, wouldn't the world be nice without advertising? But it will never be without advertising. So these are the things that projects like ours and yours are from what I understand, are meant to be trying to do, right? Opening the doors, providing use cases and purposes and value back to people and businesses, as opposed to only providing value back to the people that are providing it. So do you see this as a problem,
Yeah, that's
gang of ours, or do you see any solutions? And thank you.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point, Daniel. So yeah, I think first off, I think the official term for multiple metaverses is a multiverse, but I might be wrong on that. But yeah, I think that's a really good focus point. Is, are we just going to see this repeat of the commercialization of the metaverse? And with influencers, right? I think the biggest negative with influencers that everybody kind of universally dislikes is clout chasers, right? You have so many people chasing clout on Twitter, chasing clout on YouTube. It just becomes a big circus of people vying for attention. People stirring the pot, all this kind of stuff. So I'd like to think we're only bringing in the positive aspects of this whole influencer culture into the metaverse, but obviously that's not going to be the case. There will be some negative aspects that will carry over, in my opinion. But yeah, I think with anything that money can be derived from it, right? Influencers are doing it in most cases for the money. You're going to have those negatives. So I think the great thing about the metaverse, though, is that in this decentralized nature, people can vote with their clicks, right? If an influencer doesn't appear authentic to you, or just isn't your cup of tea, you can vote with your clicks. You can vote with your cryptocurrency wallet. So I think while Twitter is centralized, YouTube is very centralized, right? People get demonetized, and algorithms, really control what people see. Hopefully with the metaverse, it's more decentralized, and that will really help filter out a lot of the negative connotations that come with the whole influencer world.
Can I, before doing that, can I add a thought to that? And Steve, thank you for speaking up. What I think we need to do, and for me, and this is very personal, this is what decentralization is all about. Because decentralization means you take control. And that means a lot, huh? Because with any digital currency, with anything that is decentralized, you are responsible for managing it in 100% of the aspect. And there's no bank to call in any digital currency. There's no company to call if I don't know, you forgot your password or whatever, you lost your private key, right? So it comes with a lot of responsibility. And that also means that we need to get rid almost or say goodbye to the convenience, because the convenience draw us into buying into the centralized model where We just click on a button, and therefore we can be part of this influencer community, and we just say, I like you, right? And stuff happens, and I get presented content. I think that is step by step, and that's not going to happen tomorrow, but back to Jojo's comment, it's going to happen fast, because there's a lot of people that are aware, and that are aware that this is not necessarily what the world needs. I believe that taking back and being responsible, not just as a physical citizen, but as a digital citizen, is going to take over very soon. And it starts with small communities. Okay. It will grow tremendously on this new digital world, and call it metaverse, call it whatever you want to call it. To me, it doesn't matter the word, but I think we need to become more self-aware and self-responsive, yes, responsible, sorry, that's the word I was looking for, in terms of what we do on this internet, because it is a digital life just like we have a physical life. There is no difference anymore. We need to become responsible in terms of what we do in the digital space. And Steve, sorry to interject, but
No, that's fine, because it actually leads exactly to what I was going to follow up with, and I'll try to be brief. We keep talking about things, or it's been discussed through here. We're using examples like Twitter and YouTube. Well, these are clearly Web 2, and they grew out of Web 1, and it's an entirely different world, and they may or may not change, and ultimately they may end up going by the wayside. I worry about people buying money in Decentraland, because I think of Decentraland as being the Web3 version of Napster or MySpace. But the difference is Napster and MySpace were not funded by little people who put all kinds of money into stuff and watched the value inflate. So we keep reading about the bubbles bursting, and there will be. Most projects, like I know for a fact the one that Vinend is working on, because I've been a little bit involved in it, and I can't say the same for your folks yet, because I haven't had the chance to research it, but they're very different, right? They're the giving the users the ID and the control over their information. I've got a colleague in Colorado who wants to change the world of advertising and reviews, because Amazon, a Web 2 thing where, you can go in and look at a product, and it's phenomenal how bad products get tens of thousands of good reviews, because we know it's been faked and bought it. We know what the crypto space is like in terms of scams. I mean, our project, I keep getting influencers coming to me and saying, we get 40,000 engagements on our Twitter account, and it's all organic. And then you look at their feed and you see 200 or 300 likes and retweets. So if you don't look, they're just lying, right? They're not Kim Kardashian or anybody else. You've got footballers in the UK promoting a coin that fell apart, and they all look like criminals to the public. And all of that stuff gives us such a bad word with the public. The amount of things you read on LinkedIn about how NFTs are crap and how it's a bubble and so on. And elements of it, may well be. The Yuga stuff with the Bored Apes and everything else may well be. I like that they're giving people copyright control over their NFTs and artwork. We're doing the same thing. It only makes sense. And they are doing some groundbreaking stuff, but again, it's these rich guys, right, that are able to do it because they have the clout that you mentioned, and they have the reach that you have, and they're the people that people go to look at. So a lot of it has to do with education. A lot of it has to do with greed. I see people going in and lying in chat groups about tokens, other people believing them, or just the pump and dump groups that slice the price way up and cut out and sell it and leave a bunch of users at a 10x that drops back down to 1x, and they all blame the projects. And the public blames the projects. So we have to do a lot of self-policing ourselves. We have to survive all of these scams ourselves. And I'm just not sure how we can make any of that better, as long as we keep thinking of the context of that old world. So that people delivering that old world stuff into our new world is the most frustrating thing that I see, because it misleads the public. You can,
just how you kind of just said it. You said policing, that we will do the policing.
And what's worse, a company kind of slapping you in the hand, or, millions of people looking at you differently because you did something scammy. Do you know what I mean? So kind of going off with the influencers, yeah, there's going to be good and bad. There's going to be a lot of those. But I kind of agree with Why Not that there is going to be more responsibility because your face is now into the project. That's why when we look into a new project, we want to see who's the team. We want to actually see them there. So then if something goes wrong, we know who to point fingers. But I actually wanted to, Steve, thank you so much for the question. I know we had another person in here to ask another question. So I'm sorry, Ellen.
Yeah, so just because, the question that Daniel asked is very relevant to us because we're dealing with a lot of influence and I can fully understand what he means. A lot of, fraudulent activities happening, let's call it fraudulent, right? Because a lot of, influencers with fake bots and everything trying to, kind of scam people or, different businesses, that's happening all the time. And we actually, before Metafluence, we started as a B2B influencer marketing platform to allow brands to give brands better solutions when it comes to performance-based influencer marketing. So brands can actually track their campaign results and see how their campaign perform. And there are other tools out there, right? Similar tools that actually allow you to track your campaigns and understand the engagement and everything and understand if these influencers have bots or not. These tools are still, they have a lot of way to go, and we are also working on that. And as Metafluence, going to be building a rating system where when an influencer will be working with certain brands, it is there publicly, and there is the public rating there, the actual rating that people can trust. And the transition itself from Web 2.0 to Web 3 and Metaverse that we're talking about it's going to take a lot of time, and it doesn't mean that you and I think Patrick mentioned earlier that there is going to be a transition, but it doesn't have to be an instantaneous transition because YouTube, Facebook, Twitter can coexist up until we have a platform or platforms or the metaverse that we call is kind of evolved so we can get rid of the old platforms. This is just the way how it's going to go because we can't just kind of abandon these platforms and just straight jump into metaverse. For example, like YouTube creators right now, a lot of YouTube creators or even Twitch or etc. They have Patreon accounts, right? So they stream on YouTube, but they have some different perks for their audiences on Patreon. Where they charge them, right, with extra money basically there. So this is, there are a lot of things, and this is one of them. And of course, there's the culture thing. Bitcoin is Bitcoin right now because there were Bitcoin maxis and the strong culture that drove it, right? Bitcoin wouldn't be here probably if there wasn't, all this, strong culture around it. And the same goes here. Policing the culture and everything and time and regulations and everything is gonna hopefully make a better world,
100% agree. Thank you for your input. Jojo, should we move with more questions? How's it going in the chat? We have here Cortillion.
We have one more question that needs to be raised, I think. So let's have it.
Thanks for having me. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, you're the legend.
We
If
do.
you want to give a brief introduction yourself, I already know, but we have a legend on the stage. So thanks for joining us, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I love all the information, love the AMA style, and you guys have really been able to answer a lot of questions here. I have kind of become the de facto expert in this crypto and Web3 world inside of my company and kind of in the work that I do throughout my day. I talk to a lot of people and wind up educating them, basic 101 education on this space. And what I struggle to define is just how ubiquitous this space will become, how much of the current economy is going to kind of transition into a Web3 centric world. Is it everything that is part of the digital economy today in the Web2 world, or is it going to be even more inclusive than what we see on the internet today because of the new aspects that it brings to economy in general?
Yeah, that's definitely a good question. I think the biggest challenge is defining what Web3 is, and I feel like that term is used so liberally that it kind of loses its meaning. I admit I have to look it up now and then just to remember what Web3 really is, right? Because so many people, so many projects are always, spouting Web3, Web3, without, as the previous guest even said, that's not Web3. So, yeah, I
The,
mean,
yeah, the simplest way to put, I think Web3, the simplest way is it's a wallet, right? If you contain a wallet, if you have control of your assets, and then you can monetize your platform or something like that. But basically, if you have to summarize Web 3.0, it's that you didn't have a wallet before on your Facebook or on Instagram, and now you have a wallet on your metaverse, on your social media, and etc.
Which is true. And let me have one more quote, and thank you for the question. So I think, and I hope, and I believe, there's a lot of words in there, that what we are entering into is going to be much more a digital experience of what we know in real life. And we've gone through 25 years of madness, if you want to call it that. And those are my words, and you can disagree with them. And I'd love to get the wrath or the messages for it. But everybody was able to express themselves and in an anonymous way and say whatever they wanted to. That's not the world, because that's not what you do to your neighbors. I think the internet and the digital world needs to come back to what we do in real life. And that's what the metaverse brings. Metaverse brings you as an individual having an identity, and again, there's many different things, too much to go into right now, that we need to bring back to this digital world. We need to be able to be accountable for what we do, what we say, what we bring, and what we take. It's super simple, because that's what we do every day. Every day of our lives, we go either to where we work or where we help or where we be, and we all are accountable for what we do. In the digital world, that has gone very much into a tangent. Again, tangents are good because they learn us things. But now we need to bring it back. And I do believe, and I hope, this next stage will be we take the digital world back to where we know where we are, what we do, and who we are, and what we contribute. And again, we can all disagree on certain aspects. That's fine, because people are different, and we all have different backgrounds, and we all have different beliefs. That's fantastic. But we need to be accountable for what we do. And unfortunately, I have not seen that happening in.
Sorry, you kind of cut off there, but I wanted to say thank you so much for your question. We are getting close to the end, unless if anyone else has a comment for that question. All right, if not, and if there's no more questions, I will be closing. Okay, I will be closing off. And I wanted to say to the audience, thank you so much for joining. You're amazing, of course. But I wanted to hand off a closing statement to each Elvin and Dan, maybe Petrix if you wanted to join in, on where can we find you and how can we get involved, just so we can just close this out.
Sure. Yeah, thanks a lot. It was a great, refreshing conversation, and appreciate being here. Yeah, I mean, Metafluence, if you want to know more details, you can just go to metafluence.com, and you can see all the details about the project, about us, everything there. You can join our channels, Twitter, Telegram. We're quite active on Telegram. Our Discord is not so active, but you can go to our Telegram. And yeah, just go there, ask questions, and we would be happy to engage with you. Not much to say, honestly.
Thank you. And then Dan?
Yeah, just check out our website, netvrk.co, netvrk.co. All links are there for all our socials. But yeah, just to wrap it up, Netvrk, we're building a multi-chain metaverse on Unreal Engine. So you're talking high fidelity graphics and a really high level of features, interactivity, and, really looking forward to having everybody in the metaverse and participating. So, yeah, just real quickly, it was really important for us to be multi-chain. Part of our view of what the metaverse is, we don't really believe you can have a true metaverse without being multi-chain. That's why we're focused on and having I believe it's 10 blockchains integrated. So you're talking about Ethereum, Polygon, BSC chain, Cardano when it's live, Polkadot, Elrond, XRPL, Flare, and several more. But basically, giving a home to, and as somebody else said, a platform to all these great projects and all these users of different communities, in one metaverse. So really looking forward to having everybody there. Thank you guys for having me. Yeah, thank you, Elvin. Thank you, Waynand, and thank you, Petrix and Jojo.
Awesome. Thank you
100%.
so much. And then, yeah, sure, Petrix.
No, 100%. Thank you very much. You're right. The future, in my opinion, as well, is not cross-chain, is multi-chain. So in the right way, you're on the right path. Congratulations. Thank you both, Alvin, Dan, Jojo, for the amazing job, and everyone that was here enjoying this conversation. Thank you very much, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. And I will see you. If you guys have more questions, you can go to the AMA chat. And yeah, we'll do our best to answer all of them. So thank you so much. And until next time.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.